Hari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe
Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe
Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Mai Subhadra
Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Srinataji Jaya Bhagopal Jaya Srinataji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Srinataji Jaya Bhagopal Jaya Srinataji Jaya Govardhan Jaya Gaurani Jaya Jaya Gaurani Jaya Jaya Gaurani Jaya Jaya Gaurani Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astotara Satyashri Srimad Divine Grace Mangarvas Ganabai Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam Ki Their Most Merciful Lordship Shri Shri Kunja Bihari Ki Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra Ki Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal Ki Shri Shri Gauritai Ki Nitai Go Prem all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord and Spirit of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I had a realization this morning. I've had this somewhat, but not as complete as this morning, because there's a saying in the Bible that man lives by the words that proceed out of God's mouth. Mm-hmm. So everyone who's not listening to the words that are proceeding out of the mouth of God, they're not really living. They're just dying. So we're either living or we're dying. So devotees are living, and people are not getting the word of God, then they're dying. Krishna, that's what Krishna says, time I am. Destroyer of all these worlds. That's what time is. But, see, even we're living aloof from time. Once we get to the stage where Krishna is engaging us in his service, then our time is up to him. He's our time. We text 20 or 21? 20? Job. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraya Nasta Praishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. We are reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 20. Yam Manyase Matuleyam Yam Manyase Matuleyam Priyam Mitram Suritamam Priyam Mitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Saradhad Atta Saratim Saradadatta Saratim Yang Manyase Matuleyam Priyamitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Saridadatta Saratim Yamanyase Matuleyam Priyam Mitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dulam Suridadatta Saratim Christian Yamanyase Matuleyam Priyamitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Saradadatta Saratim Yamanyase Matuleyam Priyamitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Saridadatta Saratim Yam the person Manyase you think Matuleyam maternal cousin Priyam very dear Mitram friend Suritamam ardent well-wisher Akaro executed Sachivam counsel Dutam messenger Suridat by goodwill Atta thereupon Saratim charioteer Yamanyase Matuleyam Priyam Mitram Suritamam Akaro Sachivam Dutam Suradadatta Saratim. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O King, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Please repeat. O King, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Now, is this Grandfather Bhishma speaking still? So we are seeing the realization of Grandfather Bhishma. And he's not of an ordinary nature, because there were many souls amongst them who did not recognize Krishna for who he was. Purport by His Divine Grace by Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lord Sri Krishna, although acting as the cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc. of the Pandavas, was still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Out of His causeless mercy and favor upon His unalloyed devotees, He performs all kinds of service, but that does not mean that he has changed his position as the absolute person. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So a very dear devotee who has served here many years left his body yesterday. Dear Ram, short Indian body, kind of husky, I don't remember him. So our perspective is that he's continuing his service with Krishna here on the battlefield as well, recognizing who Krishna is. Then we have Grandfather Bhishma waiting for the exact moment that Krishna is going to give him knowledge of the time to leave the body. He wants to leave the body looking at Krishna's face. And so this is what Krishna says to do, is to picture him playing the flute. And so this flute playing, Krishna's in the giving of this Maha Mantra, he's allowing us every morning to have his flute playing right into our ears. Like just listening to the name. It's non-different from Krishna's flute playing. So that's what we're hearing in the morning. When the gopis hear that flute playing, they run out to the forest to meet Krishna. They are so attracted by it. So that's the mood we want to develop in our hearts. Wanting to hear Krishna's name above everything else. God, it was so beautiful when you were here for Gaurangi's wedding.
Yes.
Wasn't that band that was playing all day long, Hare Krishna Ma? That was so glorious. Wow. And it was such a liberating, such a uplifting kind of sound too. I was listening up in my room and I could hear it and I was thinking, wow, if the neighbors are hearing this, they're going to get liberated just by the sound vibration. So glorious. And we will be seeing, I believe, in the near future, more and more acceptance coming for the result Krishna consciousness will bring, because people are longing to be liberated. And the more these wars continue, the more it presses upon, just like Mother Queen Kunti is explaining to us, that these disasters in life is what pushes people towards God. So in effect, we don't want war, but if they're going to be fighting war, make it that will push them towards Krishna, towards their calling out to God to save them. From what I've seen online, which is the only opportunity I have to be able to see such a thing, the provokers of the war are getting themselves obliterated. They have drones now that cost very little in comparison to what these huge tanks cost. These tanks are millions of dollars to build these tanks. A little tiny $1,000 drone, they're radio activated with the camera mounted on them so that the camera can drive the drone into a hole this big, exactly hit it from a mile away. And that's exactly what they're doing to Russia. Every single one of their big tanks that are going in there getting destroyed. So this is the result, and the leader now, he has to take 1/6 of the karma, and he's forcing his military to these unkind acts against a city of people that have lived in the city for maybe 20, 30, 40 years now, and freely conducting their normal everyday service, and he's wanting to bomb them. This is his desire Their desire for gaining control over the earth becomes more important to them than human life. So imagine the amount every person that dies in that army that he's the cause of. He's the one pushing his own military forces. And what is happening, when the military forces do start getting bombed, they retreat, they run, if they are alive to be able to do that, they jump out of these tanks, and then they retreat, and then their flanks in the back are given the commands to shoot, to send them back into the war. So they're being captured, and the Russians are telling the Ukrainians, as they're confessing these things, that they don't want to fight, but they have to. They're forced. So this is evident of the fact that they're under the control of karma. And we can understand when we're forced by forces we have no ability to become free from. It's karma driving that. But then when we see, it's hard to determine by external circumstances alone who is a devotee and who's not. Even someone walking into it is explained that even if you see a devotee walking into a tavern, he's a pure devotee, he's going in there to preach. So you shouldn't think of it as a bad thing. Which brings us to the point that this concept of time that is wearing out the length of preaching ability, we would continue our service doing if we continued on the planet that's bringing our work here to an end. If Krishna is pleased by seeing it end, because now you're under the control of Krishna. As long as you are constantly working towards fulfilling the purpose of Krishna as well, then you are under his control and you're out of the forces of karma. Narad Muni has gained that entrance into devotional service to the extent that he doesn't have to leave. Now he's got a body, he doesn't have to leave his body. And he has full gain entrance into Vaikuntha, into Krishna Loka. You can go into every one of the palaces of Krishna's wives while he was here. But he's not limited to this planet even. So this example that he is of Krishna consciousness is an example to us to follow in what is possible. Krishna's not, how can you say, unequal to those who have their hearts purified of all other desire than that to serve Krishna. Krishna can grant them any ability he so desires to grant. And above and beyond our greatest expectations, Krishna is making the way for us on this path so that we can experience. He wants to give us the knowledge of the bliss that we are made of by the experiences we're having every day through this process of chanting and hearing, listening to Krishna Katha, and sharing association with devotees. I'm in a predicament right now because I've been told my guru is having a bout with memory. And I know a means of aiding the memory with people having Alzheimer's. They're finding big results with simply honey and cinnamon. But I can't get through. I want to get through to where he is. He's in Mayapur. I don't even know where he is. They're protecting him somehow, even from his disciples. But this creates a pain, because you know how to help somebody, and yet There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
That's the anxiety of living in the temple. If you have a pure heart and you want to go out and give this philosophy to everyone else, but you have service. See, but another thing that service does, it also sets an example. So we put our own desires aside to fulfill the desires of the Guru. Now, when I first came to the movement, I was told that the highest service is to go out and distribute books. And I did that for 3 years. But I have to say, it was both glorious and difficult to live in a van with 4 other people, sometimes there were 3 or 4 other people, in a living space that's normally occupied in somebody's closet, living in a van, because the van's been built up with laying places all around the whole inside of the van, and inside of there we put the books. And then we sleep on top of that. So there was a sleeping place for 3 people in the back of the van.
Where were you?
And then 2 people up front. We travel all over the United States. Go to all the major events, golf events, baseball events, all the football games, all that. And went all over traveling in the United States to do that. So we saw all the major cities, and simultaneously then we would be going to the temple. Every different temple, we go see all the different temples. It's amazing.
How did you have the money to do that?
Well, we were collecting money hand over fist. As a newcomer, I was doing $100 a day. Back in 1983, that was like the regular wage. People were making, if you were working construction, you get $100 a day. And it was for like maybe 4 hours of asking people for donations, which was like $25 an hour, which was good wages at that time. Because we weren't out 8 hours a day, we were only out for 4 or 5 hours at a time, and we'd have to drive to another place for tomorrow. But you develop such a friendship with devotees. We were faced at gunpoint. I remember in one Bhakti Dean had a way of getting donations. People would pay him just to leave. Yeah. But people were touched in very many different ways, and a lot of times we had the police call on us. Not everybody is favorable to Krishna consciousness, and when they find out who we are, and then they accuse us of disguising ourselves, which we were wearing wigs and, disguising ourselves so that people could be engaging in agata sukriti. So with our minds, we develop ways to preach. And then Krishna opens up the opportunities as an answer of prayer. Because the desire in our hearts to want to give this to Krishna is Krishna's desire. He gave it to us. And so it is his desire that we are fulfilling when we go out and distribute these books. Same way it is so. Having a difficulty with that, I talked with my temple president at the time and had about a 4-hour talk. Devotees cared that much about each other at that time. It was a big life change for me, moving from living outside the temple and going from here to here and there to there, and now moving into the temple and engaging in regular daily devotional activities in the temple. A big change.
Since what year?
Well, I did that in 86. I started that in 86, and then I left in 92, just 6 years later. So I was here for 9 years. I went to our temple in Arizona, Chaitanya Cultural Center, but then got married. I might as well have crawled in a hole for 7 years. Because without engagement in Krishna consciousness, the purpose of a marriage is unfulfillable without engagement. It's just sense gratification. And that's what most people are looking for as success. The best way they can gratify the senses of the physical body, then they're looking at themselves as having achieved success without consideration of every day as a realization we've been given a body for a divine purpose. And by staying in that divine purpose, then, because divine has qualities that mundane does not have, and eternity is one of those qualities that we will come to fully realize when we leave these bodies. I was just this morning meditating upon Bhima, not grandfather Bhishma, but Bhima. Bhima having been born from Vayu. Vayu gave him he gave him a number of chalices of somaras from the heavenly planets. It was a goblet set before him, and he drank as many as he could. His father told him to drink as many as he could. He drank 6 of them. And he gained the strength of 60,000 elephants. And he slept for 6 days. But that's how he had the strength to participate in this battle, because that was the nature of the participants. These were not ordinary individuals. This battle was it was a divine battle on a divine battlefield that was previously considered a sacred place, where fire sacrifices were conducted. So that's why Duryodhana and all of them had concern fighting on a sacred land against sacred people, because they knew the Pandavas were the honest ones. The Kauravas had constantly been trying to kill them time after time, and setting them up, what they call, when they surrender them, they surround them, they lead them into a place, and then they surround them. Yeah. What is that called? They, not sabotage, but something of that nature. But that's what they had tried to do, similar to that. They built them a house of lac. Lacquer, as you know, like pine tar. When you're in the wild, you can take the tar from a tree and start a fire immediately with it, just by putting a spark to it. Which reminds me, we need camphor. Got to remind her about we got to order some camphor. But camphor is a healing plant that Krishna gives us as a means of offering to him that gives us benefit by the air, just like the aroma of the incense brings to memory that which those participants in the cities of Ayodhya and Vrindavan and Mayapur, these cities are filled with this sense of the fragrances of that which will be offered to Krishna. We don't enjoy it for our own pleasure, but we look at it as that which will be offered to Krishna, and also that it is a reflection of Krishna's body. It exudes what Narad Muni encourages us to think of the odor in the temple that has been offered as incense, as that aroma coming directly from Krishna's own body. So it is described as well that when we leave these bodies, that if we have been serving Krishna, our bodies also will become in that same way, and they will be exuding perfume-like scents.
Nice.
Something to look forward to. If Krishna wants to take us back to Godhead, Krishna's purpose may be to keep us here and preach some more. There's so much preaching that needs to be done. Because just as we look at the population on the planet Earth, if there are these few people on the planet, we haven't even reached 10% of the planet yet, what to speak of the universe then? And I don't know. I'm being told by higher authorities that the Earth is the only portal in this universe. And I don't know what that means, because if other planets are getting the benefit of Krishna's visit here, which they were, it seems, profusely, because there are many mentions of flying machines that we're observing, both in the Battle of Kurukshetra, also in Krishna's pastimes as a childhood boy, dancing on Kaliya's head, and they were also in the gardens when Krishna was taking part in his Astakali Leela with the gopis. So Krishna's pastimes are not unknown to those in other planets. But whether they know it from his own visiting there, I don't know. It's possible we are the only ones in this universe in recent enough times to be able to recognize that as truth, his visit as truth. And then, how rare it is indeed that Krishna does come to a planet, but what to speak of Lord Chaitanya following. And that's the greatest thing that we now have to cherish and to realize the value of. Krishna cares so much about the people on this planet that he comes not only from his way of keeping track of time. Krishna came in the form of Lord Chaitanya just practically immediately following. Because if in the heavenly planets 5,000 years is 5,000 days, what to speak in Krishna's time, where what is time? It's a blink of his eyes, and that time passes. So there's an account of someone gaining access to Lord Shiva's Mount Kailash ashram area, and they went. There was a crowd of them, and when they left, one person decided to stay back. They wanted to gain entrance to the sacred places, even though the winter was coming and the season of visitation was practically over. They went and played one game of chess. When they came back, the arriving season was already coming. So months had passed, and they had only played one game of chess. Time is calculated completely different there. You can imagine. That's why I've said several times, that we are made of, the substance that we are made of, the experience of knowing what it is, the equivalent of that would be like taking every bit of happy, joyous experience, fun, happiness, exuberating jubilance that we've experienced in all of our existence of the journey through this universe, and stack it into 1 second, 1 moment, and then live like that. That's what the eternal substance of bliss that the soul is made of will be for us to experience the likeness of, because that which we consider to be in this world a form of happiness, more or less, is an absence of suffering, more than it is a real experience of the kind of eternal substance that the soul itself is made of. Inconceivable to the mind. Indestructible. You know, when you were a kid, maybe you also watched Superman. faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. But see, these are qualities of the soul. And what happens in children that watch these things, they develop desires in their heart. Would you like to be bulletproof? Every policeman wish he wouldn't have to wear that covering. It would be bulletproof. The soul is bulletproof. Lord Chaitanya manifested some bit of his aspect of being the soul when he visited with the Mayavadis, and they said it was so bright, it was illuminating more than 1 billion suns would. So he gave them eyes to be able to see that. But this is for us to understand the power that the soul, the energy of the soul is, even in these mortal bodies, able to cover them over. We can imagine just how gross these physical bodies are, if in fact the soul itself is more powerful than millions of suns. That's described as the nature of the soul. But how many people have a conception of the soul or the self as such? Who thinks like that? Krishna gives us knowledge of our very own nature, to know the need to become self-realized. Self-realized is said to be the beginning, but it's also the middle and the end, because the nature of it, the eternal nature of it and the substance of it is not something we can imagine with the mind, and the mind has to be transcended in order for these concepts to be really fully realized. The soul itself, manifesting in this body, then comes to the point where it can realize by Krishna's presence in the body. So he's sharing his consciousness with us, which is when he chooses the time. Grandfather Bhishma was allowed the ability to choose the time he left the body, but Krishna chooses the time he wants to reveal to us what will bring us back to him. He's choosing our times by our surrender to him. He doesn't do it out of force. He allows our free will to reveal to him the amount of love we have for him by the choices we make. And so, if we make the right choices, and he gives us the means of being able to know what those right choices are. And it's very easy for a devotee to know things that he could do in this physical world that could be spiritual activity. So many things that can be done. And he just has to keep himself in that mood, and in that practice, finding things every day, finding a way to somehow communicate to the general populace this glorious treasure of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That has the ability, because of all the potency that Krishna himself has put into the sound vibration of these names, to completely free us from not only the bonds of birth, death, old age, and disease, but even the karmic reactions that we were supposed to have otherwise suffered from. He can alleviate us from that by having us experience little things every day. When we're removed totally from, you might get a little tiny cut on your finger now. You're supposed to cut your finger off, but Krishna gives you a little tiny cut. You don't know why it happened, but it's supposed to be worse. But if you ask Krishna, he can give you a realization of why everything happened. I fell on my motorcycle. I don't know why I fell. I fell more than once. But Krishna reveals, if you have an open enough heart and you're willing to hear Krishna's side of it, then he'll reveal yourself to you and aspects of yourself that you know only the closest friend could be able to reveal to you. So in some aspects, these weaknesses that we have, what does the Bible say? In my weaknesses I am strong. What does that mean? We don't aggrandize ourselves and think of ourselves as higher than we are. But the soul, being made of the same nature as Krishna, we want to be able to manifest in this world as much as possible, but the scriptures are revealing to us the only means of doing that is by humbling ourselves and recognizing Krishna to be the all-powerful source of everything and allowing him, just like a guest. When you have guests over, it's the ones that you invite, that you've prepared for, that you're willing to have over longer than the ones that invite themselves. Somebody comes over, what does it say? 3 things start smelling in 3 days. Leftover food, a body without a bath or something, and unwanted guests. So, this is true. So we want Krishna to be welcome all the time in our heart. So we can know what activities to engage in, because all the details about our life are being given. I didn't know it. I didn't know what a tongue scraper was when I came to Krishna consciousness. I didn't know what a copin is. And these things are unique to Krishna consciousness, and they have healthful benefits that in American society are not even realized or thought about as something to take part in as a human being. But then what to speak of all the spices we use in our foods, and all the things we think about during the day, and all the activities we engage in. Spirituality, by meditation and by application, then causes one's life to become a completely different being. You're reborn actually means you turn into a different person than you would have been if you wouldn't have been reborn. You would have been suffering. Now, I know I would be in a state of suffering, probably severe karmic reactions, crying out to God, still not knowing where all these disasters come from, because thinking themselves to be innocent followers, truthful, honest followers of those scriptures being given to people who themselves made demands of God. This is what we call Sudra scriptures are. Sudra scriptures are God making allowance for people who will not live up to his original statutes. So this is where they're getting the idea of animal sacrifice. After God giving so many times over and over again foods that were of a vegetarian nature, still they're demanding to be fed those things that they were fed as slaves. So when God doesn't force people, and he makes it obvious, but he does have a tolerance level. And so once we reach the tolerance level with God, then he just gives us over to our own ways. Not gonna fight with
Someone's
him.
at the front door.
Shrimadbhagavatam, you read around, he say something? Who is that?
That's weird.
I know, I don't like these poems. They don't belong on the altar. Neither do alarms and all that other stuff. We're paying attention to Krishna, and we want to know who's talking to us. Such informative, every single verse, to reveal intimate aspects about developing a relationship with Krishna that never would enter into the mind of man. All these intricate details about relationships that are meant to give us that pure experience of God's presence. So, every act we take part in our day can be that which draws us closer and closer to Krishna. And then, he says, in Bhagavatam, he says, Krishna says, he will come and get you on Garuda's back and give you a ride back to Vaikuntha. That would be something. Wouldn't that be amazing? Krishna. Wow. See, in that form, that's Superman. He's the real Superman. And what we do is, it's a sense of mocking God, it's some imitation. But imitation is also a form of worship. So they make up some hero that has some similar qualities of Krishna. So then children develop in their minds those qualities that they would like to develop. The man who played the part believed himself to be of that nature himself, by shooting himself in the head with a gun. He thought he was invincible. From what I understand, that newspaper reporters say after that, he played the role. I suspect you probably could play these roles to the extent that you become the person you're playing the part of for at least the time it takes. And when they're on the screen for 2 hours, they've been on the screen for more than 2-3 days. These screenplays take weeks to develop, sometimes months. And they turn into those people. See, the same way we're turning into saintly people by abiding by these scriptures, actors, similarly, it's the soul acting that turns them into the people they're acting while they are doing the acting. So this act of acting here in the world without doing it out of love for God, they don't know. They capture themselves in that character. This is why Hollywood has such a problem with drugs and alcohol and everything else. Even though these people have everything in life they could ask for. Amount of money, amount of friendships, relationships, and still they'll commit suicide. Some of the most famous, remember Robin Williams, even turned to Christianity in his life. Much of his early comedy was very lewd and, what do they say, vulgar.
Supposedly, he had that disease, that degrading disease, and he didn't want to die from that, so he took his own life.
What is that degrading disease?
I can't remember, but it was one where he would lose all ability to control his muscles and all that stuff.
Oh.
It deteriorated.
Oh, okay, that's a neural.
Yeah, it was a neural disease.
Neurological.
Degenerative. So he knew that he was going to end up an invalid, basically. So.
Now, see.
But that really.
There's a life that it would seem would be very difficult to analyze the good and the bad of, isn't it? You can see by an example like that how he brought so many people out of suffering by giving them the ability to laugh.
I'm going to tell you something, Prabhu. I have worked with actors for 35 years. I
didn't know that. I don't know why I was even talking about it. I've never talked about actors before in my life.
I did theater for 35 years.
Wow.
And actors don't know who they are. They're searching for themselves in these roles.
In the roles.
And it takes that personality type to be an actor.
Yeah.
So they're looking for themselves.
And see, here's what happens with memory. Because if a child is taught scripture in his very youthful ages, when he starts to age, what he has in his memory is what he's put there. And so he familiarizes that with being him and his experiences of his mind. I get memories from my childhood constantly, And I'm realizing myself to be that character where I'm thinking. They have memories of the characters they've played.
Yes. There's a Kurt Vonnegut play called Who Am I This Time?
Wow. Yeah, see? And so I could see how that would be a very difficult psychological wall to know who you actually are. Because it's your profession to not be yourself.
Well,
in effect.
I can't remember the guy's name, but one of his recent movies, he got into the role so severely that he couldn't get out of it. It was one of the Batman movies. The Joker. The
Joker.
Died, the Joker. Got into that role and couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
And ended up taking his life because of it.
See, that may lead the way to what is called possession as well. Because, see, in Krishna Consciousness, a lot of things I used to do that I was informed by Narad Muni through his devotees. We don't whistle. I used to whistle all the time.
Whistle constantly.
Yeah. I used to whistle with water so that it sounded like a bird chirping. But it attracts ghosts. And a lot of things in people's ordinary lives attract ghosts and they don't know it.
So I have a question, Prabhu. It's really been bugging me for a while. We're supposed to think of Krishna at the moment of death.
Yeah.
But what if it's an accident and we're suddenly...
There's no such thing.
What do you mean?
There's no such thing as accidents.
No, I mean, if you're driving down the road and suddenly the diesel truck changes lanes
I've
and
had
it's
that
not
happen.
instantly...
I've had that happen. The first thing came out of my eye, Krishna. And I looked over, just 5 seconds later, I tumbled over upside down in this van. It's pouring down golf balls, right? Lost full control, tried to gain control of it. Sliding, turned this way to get out of the slide, overreacted, went the other way, turned that way to get out of that slide, overreacted, boom, went right into the ditch. Van tipped upside down. Just had put my seatbelt on just seconds before. And I yelled, Krishna. And then right at the window, there's a guy standing there. Are you all right? I don't know where he came from. I don't know how he got there. And then I looked out the window, and he helped me get up. I had my, I'm hanging upside down with my seatbelt on. And there's a whole row of cars, like 10 cars, to make sure I was all right.
Wow.
He said, this is what we do in Canada.
So what if you're in a coma?
Yeah, if you're in a coma. Well, the thing was, I didn't do anything for it to come out of my mouth. It just came out. I didn't try. It just happened.
Okay.
So it becomes a reflex. You know what an automatic reflex is, right? You hit the right spot in your knee and boom,
Right.
pick the doctor. So that's what happens with Krishna consciousness.
All right, I can accept that.
We had the same thing happen when we were doing Sankirtan. Bhakti was driving, went off the side of the road, and I was calling out, hanging on. We didn't have seatbelts in the van. You're sitting in the back of the van with all these tumbling upside down and calling out, Lord, Lord, Lord. Arjuna says, Prabhu, you don't know how many millions of lords you're calling out to. Not one of them is Krishna. So see, my way of thinking changed. But that was 40 years ago. And now comes out Krishna instead. But it's who you put your trust in all the time. A young child calls out, Mommy, Mommy, Daddy, Daddy. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Automatic.
Okay.
It's not like as soon as the thing happens, you just got to think, oh, who should I call now? No, just boom, it happens.
Okay.
And the super soul will quicken you as well. Because super soul, see, hearing his own name, your name is Krishna, who's sharing his body with you, you're giving him pleasure by saying his name. You've been in this universe for millions of years and never said Krishna's name till you got to this form. And now you're reminding Krishna of the fact that you once knew him.
Nice.
We were together before. Of course, we left that place. Some things Krishna's blocking from our memory to keep us from remembering how big an offense it was that caused us to have to suffer death. We're pretty big offenders. But On the other hand, somehow Krishna is finding it within his pleasure to give us removal from here. So the biggest offense took place so long ago that there is no need for us to have to remember, because now we're back in spiritual energy. But see, the marginal energy, which we are, is described in 7th canto, that it will become spiritual energy again. That's what the soul really is, spiritual energy, but manifesting in this form that we're in as the human form covered over by this gross energy, we're not really manifesting anything of the soul until we are completely pure. But as we speak the scriptures in that, this is bringing out qualities. But the soul is something so far above and beyond that it's going to take our lifetime to fully realize the substance of it. It's so unique and so transcendental to anything else. And for so many millions of years, we have forgotten that. The one thing we should have remembered, we forgot: Krishna. One idea, one person, one power, one energy, one source, one life, Krishna. That's the only thing we have to remember. We remember Krishna, and we have everything. Everything to look forward to. I'm going to leave it at that. It's 9 o'clock. Any question?
One point to add.
Yeah.
Even in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu, Krishna mentions about remembering him at the end. Even though if you do not remember him, in your lifetime, if you have done devotional service, he will remember you.
Yeah, he remembers us.
Okay.
He will remember you.
All right, that's what I needed to hear.
But it's like you say accident or something, by chance you did not remember him, he will remember you.
Okay.
See, automatic, this is what automatic reflex is.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that you are yourself remembering, it's that you have so put this into your consciousnness that it just takes place.
It's just part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a lot better, because it's like, well, what happened? I mean,
Well, do you find yourself, like I say, you pound a hammer, you hit your Krishna. You find yourself doing it?
I chant myself to sleep every night. I just start saying rounds until I wake up in the morning.
Okay. But when something drops something, Krishna, does that come to you? No. It will. It will. Just keep chanting. It will. Because as we'll find with most devotees, as soon as something happens, you drop something, Krishna, it just comes automatically.
Yeah.
And see, in Christianity, you say that Jesus Christ, that's swearing.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
So the concept of the name is not there really.
Mm-hmm. And then the Jewish Christian guy, he only has so many names. He's, I am that I am.
Yeah.
Elohim.
Yeah.
And,
Jehovah. Yeah.
Yeah, just that there's no description of what that means or
That's true.
what separates the individuals or anything like that.
And there is some little tiny hints of it in the Old Testament when he talks about being Shalom, Eloi, Shalom, something like that. He said that name had significance to the relationship they were gaining from him through their I think this was during the time they were practicing the year of Jubilee or something. You remember that year of Jubilee?
I remember hearing that.
That year of Jubilee was a whole year. After 7 years, any debts that were accumulated were forgiven. They start all over in the 7th year of Jubilee. Now see what happens with how that coincides. It makes up after 7 years for the days of February 30, 28, 29. there's a day difference every 4
Oh,
years.
yeah, 29th. The
Right.
29th comes around every 4 years.
Right, every 4 years. So this year of Jubilee, I don't know, it had something to do with the calendar's 12-year cycles or something. But see, the United States, this calendar we're on is not right either. Number one, it's not an accurate calculation of the day he was born. Wasn't born in December. And so there it's off. But we're using clocks as well. There's a description in Bhagavatam which I think might be worthwhile devotees making one. A clock that counts 64ths of a second. And what do we have here? And this is described how to build it, and Bhagavatam tells us how to make it. And we have the materials to make it. You could have the most accurate clock in the world by design of Bhagavatam. All these things need to be done by devotees, and they will be done in the future. But until they are, the world's not going to fully recognize Bhagavatam for what it is. Now they've got what is called a 3D printer. Utility is the principle. So we can make all kinds of things with these. I'm thinking of making these little things that blow in the wind. And then by the blowing in the wind, they create light, just 1 volt light bulbs that light up pastimes of Krishna going around in a circle. Could be horse riding in Arjuna, any kinds of things. So many things can be made that can expound on what our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada said, utility is a principle. It means use everything in Krishna's service. Yeah. Any other comments? Shrimadbhagavatam, ki jai. Srila Prabhupada, ki jai. I think it's getting wrapped up.